I have
Are you recording?
Yes, I am recording it, yeah. So I am going to use Mod Podge just because that is the sort of gel medium type product that I like to use. But if you have access to, or maybe already have at home, like a gel medium of any type, which is gonna come in, you know, a jar. Obviously the packaging won't be like this, but it'll be a jar like this. It's a liquid adhesive that you sort of paint on. And it could be, I know, Liquitex or Prima or Golden. They all have their own version of a gel medium, and it should be called that, like a matte gel medium or maybe a gloss gel medium. I like the matte, so like this is matte Mod Podge, because especially usually when I'm using this, I'm doing it for collaging and things like that, and I think the matte finish suits this kind of project and style better. But if you like the glossy look, by all means get glossy, but I would suggest matte just because it has like that nice sort of more matte finish at the end of your project. So what I have here, the first one I'll show, since this is a you know, scrapbooking store and scrapbooking crop, I'm gonna show how you can maybe collage a couple of pieces onto the background of a scrapbooking page. But this technique and product would work if you wanted to cover a piece of chipboard or a canvas. Like I always used to stitch, like I really like embroidering, and so I would hand stitch onto canvases. Like you can see, this is string on the back of a canvas. So I would hand stitch on canvases all the time, and this is old book paper, but also rice paper collaged right onto a canvas. So you could use this to cover a canvas, chipboard, paper like this, really any surface. You even could do this onto a vase or onto a picture frame, because rice paper is so soft, like it's very thin, so it's very moldable. You can wrap this around any type of surface or material that you're working with. So it's very nice for that, and it is very similar in texture to, let's say, a napkin or a tissue paper or something like that. But the difference is this is so fibrous and so durable. Like as soon as you wet a napkin to collage it onto something, it's so hard not to tear it because it just starts falling apart. This is very durable product. When you wet it, it's not, I mean, you can rip it, I've ripped this, but it's not just gonna start coming apart on you like some of this other materials that have the similar qualities in terms of pliability as a rice paper. So I have laid out a white piece of cardstock as my base. It's a 12 by 12 piece of paper. All of these projects that I'm going to show, some of them aren't quite even going to be finished projects, but all of these things, so I'm going to do a card background, I'm going to do a layout background, and then I'm going to do one just on a sheet of paper, just to show you like how I had mentioned earlier to Shuwen, like I'm just going to collage this one onto a sheet of white paper and then cut it out, and then could use this as an embellishment or something like that on a project. But all of these are done with one sheet of rice paper. So I've sort of cut it and ripped it apart. They're very versatile, and you can use, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there to make that sheet of rice paper go a long way. So I have laid out sort of what I thought looked cute for a collage background for a 12 by 12 layout. I've got just old book pages out of an old book that I found at an antique mall. I've got some just printed paper that I ripped. It's just got a small polka dot print on it. I thought that the browns and blacks looked nice with my colors that I was working with. And then I've got some little pieces of rice paper. So what I'm really gonna do quite quickly here is I'll just glue down a few of these. And the book pages, I'm also, because these are vintage, like these are actual old book pages, they're quite, they're delicate. So if I was to glue them down with, let's say I just put a couple strips of washi tape down on the back, this is so brittle that if something snags it, anywhere that it's not actually stuck down with washi tape could very easily crumple and peel off. So I'm going to collage this down as well with Mod Podge so that the entire surface is adhered down to my paper, not just particular spots. Because if I don't glue down every little piece, then the edges might start to break off because they are so brittle. So I'm using a super fancy old Treasure Memories bag folded in half as my painting surface because I totally forgot to bring home a craft mat. But you, I would suggest, would probably want to do this on your craft mat or whatever work surface you like to use at home for painting and messy projects. Now I'm just taking my paintbrush and I just dipped it right into my Mod Podge jar and grabbed some Mod Podge on my paintbrush, and then I'm just gonna apply a thin coat. It doesn't take a lot. This is not a heavy piece of paper. It's not like it requires a lot of adhesion in terms of weight. It's more just that I want every little inch of this to be covered, but it doesn't take a lot, so I'm doing just a nice thin coat of Mod Podge on the back of this book page. And once I've done that, I can just set it down on my paper. I like to start from one side and then just work my way up so that it's a nice flat application. So I start at one side and then just work my way up. Push that down, and now that is glued down really good. Then I will take this one here, quickly do the same thing. Sorry, I know it's like a boring process to watch somebody craft, but it's the best way to show you how I do it, so you just have to watch me. All right, so I've done the exact same thing to this one. Just lay it down from one side to the other to get a nice smooth finish. Okay, I'm gonna move this off to the side for a second. So this one here is just a sheet of paper, like it's just a heavyweight cardstock. So this one I can stick down with score tape, that's no problem. I wanna ink the edges first really quick, just to give it a little bit more depth and dimension. All right, so once I've done that, I'm gonna just stick it down with some score tape. Oops. And then once I've done that, then that will mean that for this piece of rice paper, everything that's underneath of it is glued down and secured. So I will go ahead and glue down my first piece of rice paper, and I'm going to do the exact same technique that I just did with the book page, only it's going to be with rice paper. So this is the front, this is the back. Like you can see, the pattern is more visible on the front than the back, so just make sure you're gluing down to the back side. So I've got my pattern side down, and I'm just gonna stick some Mod Podge along the back. Same thing, it does not take a lot. It's a very lightweight product, so it doesn't require a lot of adhesive. I just wanted, the only thing to make sure is you wanna make sure you cover every little bit of it. Then, same as before, I'm gonna pick a corner. Doesn't matter if I'm starting at the top, bottom, side. I just pick one area to start, and I just kind of smooth it out from there. And just like that, I have collaged some rice paper onto a scrapbook page. If you're watching Shuen, see, that wasn't so bad, right? The cool thing too about this that I will note, so you see these three, like I've layered them. That's super cool. We've layered paper before, all of us have. And that's awesome. But when you layer this piece of paper over top of this piece of paper, or this piece of paper over top of that piece of paper, you can't see what's underneath. Like, you know that there's something under there, but the layer gets cut off with all of these because they're completely opaque. With the rice paper, it's semi-transparent, not completely transparent, so you can still see what you've laid out on top, but you can also see the other layer underneath. So it gives this much more dimensional level of layering than just putting two pieces of paper on top of one another, because not only can you see the top layer, but you can also see the layer underneath of it. So now I'm going to go ahead and just do the same thing to these pieces on the other side.